Today we're talking about pavers versus concrete. This is always one of my favorite discussions because homeowners always want to know what's better, what is the difference. A lot of times people look at pavers and they say, hey, it's always so wavy, concrete must be better. And I want to kind of debunk some of these myths and go over some of the reasons this stuff happens so you can really make the most informed decision about what you have on your property. Now, first and foremost, the patio, the walkway, the driveway, that surface area that's under your feet where you're walking around your home, it makes a huge difference on the aesthetic of your home, the appearance, the value add, the whole piece can either just be there, kind of sometimes like broomed concrete is, it can just kind of be there, or it can be this aesthetic that really is there to tie everything together. And a lot of times what I really love about pavers is how from a luxury aesthetic, it can truly tie a property together with different colors, different designs. There are so many things you can do. I've seen stuff as crazy in California as a barcode designed driveway, and it really looked cool for the wild modern look of the house. So the sky's the limit on what you can create with pavers and what you can truly do with the different color pieces, styles, tones. All of it is so nuanced, and it adds so many cool aspects to a home. Now, price. That's what a lot of people want to know right out of the gate. What is more cost effective? Fact of the matter is, for sure, concrete is going to be more cost effective. And that's kind of a tiered up approach. There's just broomed or brushed concrete, and then there's going to be a stamped and colored concrete, and then we're going to be going up into, there's some different kind of acid wash concretes, some different ways you can finish concrete. Basically, the more finishing required, the more cost. And then when you get into pavers, there's going to be different styles and levels of pavers that have different costs as well. But so the price is going to continue to go up. But you don't just get pavers. You get a usable service that is meant to last forever. When you look at pavers and you look at some of the oldest still usable roads in the world, it's what they're made out of. The PSI, the actual surface strength of a paver, is much harder than concrete itself. The build and the structure below it, it's designed to, when built well, hold a ton of weight and last forever. So there's a lot more preparation. There is a lot more labor involved, but you do get not something that is just beautiful and can be designed to any artistic desire. You get something that is meant to last a lifetime on the tail end of getting a paver project installed properly. And that is one of the biggest words, properly. I mentioned just a minute ago how we were going to go over the issue of pavers settling and wavy pavers. This has always been something homeowners would bring up in the question, why they didn't like them. They assumed concrete was the fix because you don't have the waves in it. You don't have the low spots. You don't have the little pooling areas. That is all poor installation. That leads to settling, which leads to low spots, waves, and issues. So with proper base installation, and that's something that is super common here in Florida, people put in very little base rock, do very little compaction, and you're going to have more issues. With proper compacted rock base, it is going to give you the support you need to have pedestrian traffic, and then we're going to step that up to have even more base if there's going to be some kind of vehicular traffic or something much heavier on that. But that is the part you can short that with pavers will cause all the issues. Now, this gets shorted on concrete as well, but concrete doesn't show that issue maybe as fast. But when it does show it, it can't be repaired. When concrete does show settling, it cracks. You see all the lines and the joints in concrete? That is to control cracks in concrete. The issue is it doesn't always crack on that line. And your concrete starts to look very bad once it starts to have cracks all over it. And this is even worse and magnified even more when concrete has color in it or it's stamped, because that is a shiny finish that has color that a lot of times is thrown out on the face of it, or even if it's through color, when it cracks and some of that pops off, you can always see where that has happened. You can't really repair that well. That's the other beauty of pavers. Even if you did get settling, if you did have a problem area around a house, you can repair that area and everything will look just like brand new unless you had to use some new pavers. And then after a little bit of time wearing in, those are going to look perfectly matched with everything as well. So pavers are really, really flexible. So I keep mentioning this over and over. I just don't want it to get lost. Concrete can just become dated looking very, very fast. Even stamped concrete, which I do think is a really cool product, can be a maintenance hog of keeping it sealed and keeping it look good. And another problem I'm seeing on some of these stamped concretes are they are really, really slick. I know this is not every single one, and there's differences as how it's installed, but this is also something to watch out for. Now, on the paver side, with all the colors, with all the design, with all of the usability of it, it's not going to get as dated as quickly. It actually looks better as it becomes more rustic in a lot of senses, and you can have a product that looks and fits the home for a long time. And I cannot emphasize enough, which I keep going over, of the low spot. If you were to get a low spot, you can fix that spot. It's not a crack that is not repairable. Now, I talked about stamped concrete being potentially a little slick. Another big aspect of concrete versus pavers. Pavers, with some of the texture and the design, you can get smooth pavers, but then the joints and other areas add texture. On top of that, you can get textured pavers that maybe look like flagstone or some kind of natural stone. All of these tones and lines in the pavers make pavers much more slip resistant. So if it's around a pool, if it's around an area where there's a lot of water, this is going to definitely help its safety level when it comes to being slick. It's going to be less slick. It's going to be more walkable in all conditions. This is another huge benefit we see from pavers that we really, really like. And this is very big specifically when you start getting around a pool where there's a lot of water, there's a lot of people playing, maybe kids running. This is going to keep it from being so slick and make it a lot harder to always just slide if you're running around or doing anything on pavers, which I know you're probably not running around. I know you're telling your kids to walk most likely around the pool, but any slip resistance goes a long way for safety. Now, finally, the last point I want to cover. Luxury buyers notice the difference between concrete and pavers. It is a long-term investment that increases the value of your home. So it's one of those pieces when maintained well. Pressure washed, keeping sand in the joints, keeping the weeds out of the joints, because if they're not maintained, just like a crack in concrete, a weed will grow in it. But if you do those things and you have these sealed every couple of years, they're going to look beautiful for a long time. And other buyers are going to see this house if you do go to sell, and they see all that value that was added in with this one aspect, and it's going to make it even more desirable to a homeowner. I love paver walks, paver drives. It adds a whole aesthetic to a home that a concrete house does not have. And you better believe when your landscape, when your sidewalks and pavers and all that stuff is really, really done well, going to add value to your home. It's going to make it easier to sell. So these are all the reasons I like pavers better. Love installing them. We would love to talk to you about where we could install pavers on your property to change the whole aspect, to change the whole outside, to change the whole functionality of your home.